let us work on Chapter 8, Theming, Styling, Customizing, from the book Ionic 6, Creative Awesome Apps for iOS, Android, Desktop and Web by Andreas Dormann. So in this chapter, chapter number 8, the author tries to make the app look beautiful. Normally we want to have the app look nice, beautiful for the users, right? So this is the target of this chapter. It mostly focuses on CSS topics, style sheet topics. So let's go into this chapter. So what I've done is I've made a copy of my code from the previous chapter, which is chapter number 7, which is form validation. I just made a copy of the folder. So this is the actual copy of the folder. I have pages and I have services. So there are two services here. One is called Bob Tour service. The other one is the favorite service. And the pages, I have few pages here, right? So this is my code right now. And what I've done, I've just gone to the command prompt, go to the same folder and issued Ionic serve. So by doing this, I have this page here. So I have the Ionic serve here. So when I have it here, now you can see when I click on regions, when I click on tours, right? So you can just reload it in case you find there is some lagging behind, because it's going to get all these data from a JSON file which is available online. So let's talk about theming, styling and customization, right? And also I do have the code from the book, which is the code from the book chapter 8. This is for section 3, 5, 4, 6 and so on and so forth. These are different steps inside the chapter. So let's move on and work on this theming concepts here. Basically we work on the colors in a style file. Colors, there are 9 default colors available in Ionic. And these colors include the shape as well as the tint options around. So let us start to create some colors, to modify some colors and see how things go. So let's go into SRC folder, go into themes folder, and you have a file called variable.scss. And I do have my Notepad++ here. I have two windows of Notepad++. The right one I'm going to open things from the book, and the left one I'm going to open from my own folder. Okay. So for now I'm going to open from my folder. This is my folder. So let's drag and drop variable.scss. This is coming from src/theme folder. Okay. So once you have brought in here, right? So this in here you will see under root there are so many options. There is what is called primary, secondary, tertiary, success, warning, danger, dark and so on and so forth. And out of them, primary is used by almost all components. So in here I have these numbers here, right? So the primary color, and there is RGB, contrast, RGB, shade and tint. Imagine I'm going to change this. So before you change, just look at your page here. So it appears like this, right? It's a basic page. So let's go back here. I'm going to change this one, right? So I'm just going to change some of these values. So imagine I'm going to change these values here. So I've changed the primary, RGB. I'm not going to change the contrast or the contrast RGB. I'm going to change the shade. I'm also changing the tint. So if I'm changing them, and I just save them, right? Once I save, go back to the browser, you see it loads. Now if you see the color here, it is changed now. You see there is some color change here which was not there. So basically if you want to change things, you want to change the color of your app, okay, one of them is to work on the primary. And here this color stands for warm yellow orange color, right? Imagine if I want to generate the colors for my app, I could just go into this website here, which is called color generator, ionicframework.com/docs/theming/color generator. So you can move into this website. In this website, you could change the color. So let's say I can write here the color, and then from here you will get what is the shade, what is the tint. You can get these details. Okay, you can work on them, change this number accordingly. Things will be changed here. Now if you want to change in other places, for example, I don't want to change for the whole app, but I want to change for a specific page. So let's go back to our browser. I'm in the Ionic app. Let's say I'm clicking on a city, and then I'm clicking on something. This gives me a details of a page. You can see it says details. So let's open up the details page. Right? If I'm going to work on the details page, right, I'm going to go to my app here, the folder here, app, pages. I'm going to work on details. So here is my details folder. And then in here, I'm going to work on details.page.html if I'm here, right? So in here, you can see there is, if I scroll down, you will find here that is open social Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. So if I click this, you can see these options here. This for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. So I'm going to change the color of these logos here, right? So I'm going to go here and type color equal to, let's say I'm going to write here tertiary. Okay, so if I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it for each one of them with the space here, right, for all of them. So let's call the Instagram, I'm going to put it as danger, and for this one I can say secondary, and the last one I can say success. I save this. Please understand that if you go to the variables, you have the primary, you have the secondary, you have the tertiary, you have the success, you also have the danger. These are just the names, right? So if I go back here, go to regions again, right, click on any one of them, click on any one of them. Now click on this, see the color, right? So these are changed based on the option I have provided here. So I can work at the global level. I can also work on a specific level if I want to. So these are options available when you want to change the theming, change the color of your app. And you have what is called local CSS file, and you also have global CSS file. Remember, out of this, some files are required, some files are kind of recommended, some are optional. So there is only one single file which is required file. This is called core.css. Other than that, there are few recommended files. One is called structure.css, typography.css, normalize.css, display.css. These are all recommended files. And there are many other optional files as well. Okay, I'm not going to go through each one of them, but if you want, you can look for them. They are useful to change few things. For example, if let's say I'm going to work on sizing of the boxes available in the HTML, then I can use a structure.css. If I want to work on the font family, then I can work on the typography.css, and so on and so forth. Right, padding.css is an optional file which works for modifying the padding or the margin of any element. Display.css is also a recommended file. Here you can work on to hide an element, right, on a specific breakpoint if you need be. So let's assume that you want to change the toolbar in a single page. Okay, let's assume you want to do this. So let's go and work on pages. Let's go to favorites, open up favorites.page.html. You have this file here. So in the favorites.page.html, which we are going to work on now, right? So let's try to change the toolbar to primary. Before doing that, let's go here and check favorites. So this is how it appears right now. So going back here, so into this, what I'm going to do, here it is Ion toolbar. I'm going to click space. I'm going to say color and then say primary. Then save it. Now go back here, right? See the color now? It has changed to that color. So let's assume I'm not interested in primary, I'm interested in the tertiary, for example. Just click and it changes. So all these colors are coming from the variable.scss right, which is under src/theme file, right. So this is one way of doing things here. Imagine I don't want to use something which is already existing. I want to create my own. Imagine if I want to do my own, right? Not like warning, danger, dark or medium, tertiary, primary, secondary. I'm not interested in this. I'm interested on my own, right? Using my own. So going back here, let's say we want to create something and we call it as my toolbar style. Okay. So I'm doing this. I'm just saving this. I just went to HTML and I saved. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. No errors. But because this is not defined yet. So once it is not defined, nothing can work on. So what you have to do, I have to go to the file called favorite.page.scss. This file here. This is currently an empty file. So in here, I'm going to use this name here. So copy this, right, and put in front there's a dot because it's a class file here. So I'm going to create like this. So I want to change the background, right? So just write //background colon variable, and let's assume I'm going to use the primary here. Okay, I'm going to indirectly use the primary which is already defined. When I save this, I get back here, right? You can see the background is changed here, right? The background is changed to the primary color, which is a warm yellow orange color, right? So if I am not interested, I can change it to, let's say, tertiary accordingly, right? You can just load. Right, so you can go here, you can change them, and then you will see what really happens. Okay, you can do that. But then now once you have done this, you are able to change a specific item, or you are able to use existing ones. You are also able to change things at the global level. These things are possible. Now let us move on, okay, into a next level. Let's say I want to do the same change but at a global level. Okay, instead of doing it like this, I want to do it at a global level. So move into your src, and then you are going to access what is called global.scss, this file here. Global.scss, it is under src folder. Okay, so it is under the src folder, global.scss. So in here, I'm going to add something here. Okay, let's do it. You write it as roots. So I'm going to do it like --ion toolbar background, and then I'm going to say this is var --ion color, and then I will say primary, right. So now I have changed it. You see it changes in all my pages. Sometimes you see if it happens like this, you just reload it, right. This should be fine here. Okay, so you can reload and check. So basically this is in the global, it affects all the files here. Okay, and then you can also do this. Like for example, toolbar style, I can put the style which I have created and I can write it here. Instead of writing it in the specific SCSS file like this, I am now writing the same thing at the global level. Okay, so you can do it at the global level, which means applicable to all the pages, or you can do it at a specific level. Right now, once I do this, because this will be overriding this guy, so let's remove the root here, right. So just remove the root, and then you can see what is the impact here. Okay, depends on where you are assigning it. So accordingly, if you assign them to the right spot, so here I have assigned only for the toolbar here for the favorites, and you can use them here. Let's continue. So this is about changing the color at different places. Okay, and if I want to do something more, I can also do it like this. imagine if I'm going to use the root and I'm going to click this. This is black color here. Let's say I don't want a black color. I want it a different color. I can also do this. I can do it like Ion toolbar, and I will say color, and then in here I can say Ion color primary contrast. Okay. So once I do this, you see it becomes white color here. So this contrast is also defined before. If you go into variables, you see this is the white color which is defined here. So you can use them, you can use the defined ones, or you can create your own and you can do it. So this is just changing the color. Okay. Let's move on into what is called CSS utilities. So basically, if let's say I want to modify text or modify the margin, the padding, and so on and so forth, let's try to do this. Okay. So I'm going to use the book code here. I'm going to start with the fourth one, src. Right. So let's go here. In our case, I'm going to use pages. I'm going to go to favorites. So let's close whatever we have opened here. Just right click here, close everything which is unchanged. Right. So I'm going to work on, here is the folder. I'm going to work on favorites.page.html. I'm on this. And I also need the same page from the step 4 of the book. So go to pages, favorites. I'm going to open on this side one, correct? Here. Okay, just close the other one. So if you have two parts here. Okay, the left is my code, the right is from the book. Right. So let's just remove the color which we have added before. Just remove it. We don't want that. Okay. So now in here, what I'm going to do is this. If you go to the footer here, okay, if you go to the footer here, so that is a small mistake here. Let me just correct. Sometimes when you copy paste codes, maybe there is some mistakes around. So when I'm going to save this, and I'm going to write this is greater than 1. So what is really happening here? Okay, let's disable this. Okay, what's really happening when I go to favorites and I want to have the option of reordering them like this, right? See, the reorder happens here. I can just reorder them. Okay, and it says you can reorder. Imagine I want to work on this color. I want to change this, make it appear something different, correct? I'm going to work on this. Basically, I want to have this bottom one only when the number of items is greater than or equal to greater than 1, correct? So once I write here greater than, if I write here greater than, right, you will see it gives me an error. It says object is undefined. So if you face such an error, correct, if you face such an error, you can just go in here and remove this question mark, right? Then things will be fine. It's not going to show you anything. There is no issues right now, right? And there is no favorites, nothing in the favorites right now. So you can add things to the favorites by clicking anything here, region, for example, click on options, add to favorites. Go back here, right? And this was just reloading, so it took some little time. So like this, it will change. The order can be changed there, okay? So let's go back to the code. So what I'm going to do right now with this code, right, I have the footer here. In the footer, I want to have the footer aligned as a center here. So let's go here. This part here, div. Remember, you need to have the closing tag as well. So let me explain this. You're going to make things as a center. You're also making it as text as uppercase here. Okay. So just save this, go back to the browser, click, get back here, look at this. Now you can see it says you can reorder, it is in the middle, it is in the center, it is also all uppercase. So if you don't want uppercase, you can just remove the uppercase we have added here. This one if you remove, right, for example, right, now you will see, click on something, come back here, you see it is in the center but not uppercase. So this is how you can change on the text level, okay. So you can do text alignment, it can be center, it can be start, it can be end, so left and right if you want. Ion text center, Ion text start, Ion text end. You can have Ion text uppercase, Ion text lowercase, Ion text capitalize. Means if you want to capitalize the first word of each, first letter of each word. Okay. And then you can do also changes. For example, if you go back to our list page, okay, and open up our list.page.html, right? If you scroll down, you find here there is also Ion text wrap. We have enabled wrap. That is why if I go in here, for example, right, and if I have something as a long name, right, you see they are wrapped. Okay, the text could be wrapped for you. So these are options. You could enable them and you could make the changes into the styles. Similarly, there are also other styles available. You can do it at the element level, element placement level. So if you want to use something like float, you can use ion float left, ion dash float dash left, or ion dash float dash right. You can also do like responsive float classes. You have element displace. If you want to hide something, you can use ion dash hide. So basically the element will be hidden, but they'll be available in the DOM file, right? And you can also use different screen sizes if you want. And in the case of Ionic has an option of screen sizes. In the screen sizes, you have different size, XS, MD, and so on and so forth, which could be used in terms of breakpoints. They are called as breakpoints. They are useful if you have different size of devices. The media style is different. You have a phone, you have a tablet, you want to see in different screens. So you can enable them. We will see an example of it a little later. You can also work on the spaces between the content. You can work on the padding. You can work on the margin. So padding you can do like ion dash padding or ion dash padding dot dash top. You can also have ion margin, ion dash margin dash top. You also have flex containers like ion dash justify dot dash content dot center, and you also have ion align self center. There are many such options. I'm just giving you some of them. Right. Let's go into a little bit more. Let's say you want to do a little bit more changes. As we have seen, we can go to the variable dot SCSS. So we can go here, go to src, can go to the theme, you find this file. You can go in here. You can also indicate something as my favorite color. Okay. So if let's say I want to put something as my favorite one, right, I can define something as my favorite. So I could define like this. For example, ion. So I can say like dot ion slash color slash favorite. You can define something like this. Okay. You can define your own, and then in there you can also specify things like what is my base color, right? So indicate the color you are looking for. For example, something like this, whichever color you are preferable with. And you can say base RGB, you can say like base contrast, contrast RGB, base shade, base tint, all this you can specify here. Okay, you can do that. There is also another option. You can go into the root itself. Here also you can specify like this, ion color favorite, right? And you can start writing whichever you prefer. Okay, so you can have a listing under roots, or you can also declare it as your own color separately. So if you want to declare your own, just put dot ion slash color and the name you want to give. And if you want to have something inside, you can do it inside the root, whereby you can say favorite slash RGB, favorite dash contrast, and so on. You can define them. Right? If you want to do it for a specific one, as we have seen before, you can go in and you can change them. There is also what is called ion background color. There are a lot of such options. Okay, I'm not going to go through each one of them, but you can understand that this could make your app look nicer. It could look better. Okay, you can change the fonts, you can change the grid columns, you can do many things here. So let's work on some fonts now. Let's say you are not happy with the font you have here. For your app, you want to have a separate font, correct? So what you can do, you can go to some websites like Font Library. If you go in Font Library, for example, and then I'm going to make a search for a font called OnKey, right? This is a font. Just click this, download this font. You will actually get, right, files as a zip file. So I've just copied it here. Don't need to copy like this. I just copied it here. I have extracted this on OnKey file. You have it here. So what I need is one single file, which is called, the name of the font, regular ttf.ttf. So I'm going to get this file. I'm going to use this, right? Imagine I don't want to use a downloaded font. I want to use something which is available online, and the font will be used when and where I can just, when I'm connected to the internet. Okay, let me do that first before I use the downloaded font. So go to your src folder, go into open index.html. This is the file, index.html. Okay, in this file here, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to refer to a font which exists, right? So you have to go to the head part. This is your head part, right? Inside the head, I'm going to add link. I'm going to say hrefs. So I'm going to refer to a font here. This is called fonts.googleapis.com css, and then I'm using the font called OBD Sans. So this is the name of the font. At display equals swap, and RL is style sheet. So close this. Okay. So I've done this. Did it make any change to my Ionic? Nothing happens, right? It's the same. So what you have to do, this is not complete. You just have said, okay, link to this font. And then now you move into your themes, open the variable.scss, right? Under root, you specify Ion font family, okay? And then you say what is the name of the font. Remember, I use this name, right? So please just note here, I've just referred this name. This is the same name here, right? It's the same name, ODB Sans. Come here, you can see the font has changed. This is the font which is coming from the internet, right? But this requires you to be connected to the internet. Your app should be connected to the internet, then only you can get this. Imagine I don't have this option, right? I don't want people to be always to be connected, right? So I'm just going to remove this. What I can do, I can just comment it. Comment in HTML is like this, okay? This is the starting and ending comment. So closed it. Go back here, I can just remove this, comment this like this. So now if you see, go back, it goes back to the original font. And right now, I want to use the font I have just downloaded. So going back to this folder, which I have just created separately for me. You don't need to create such a folder, you can just get it from your downloads folder, no problem. So I'm going to use orkni space regular.ttf, more in, right? And then go into src, into asserts folder, right? Let me create a separate folder here called as font folder. Okay, you can put it here, no problem. You can also copy and put it inside a subfolder. So it is under src asserts fonts slash fonts. Then you have this folder called, you have this file called ttf file. Okay, so now that you have this file, you need to declare it. If you don't declare it, it will not work out, right? So let's go back to our book code. So this is our book code here, src. We are now on step number 6. So we need to make a change in the global.css file. Okay, let's close this. Just need this file, and this is my original one. So this is the folder I'm working on. So going back here, close all this, bring in the global.scss. So I have the global.scss here. So I'm going to do a small change here. I'm going to go into the roots, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, let me remove whatever was there before, because we did it in the previous steps. They are not necessary right now. Okay. Right. So I can go here. I can say ion slash font slash family, and I will write here the name of the font. This is the name of the font, correct? And save it. Now going back to your browser here, correct? You see it has changed now from the previous one, right? If it is not clear, just remove this, save it again, you see the change, right? So I am now using a different font. So you can download a font, you can use it, right? And you can just benefit it from there. There is also another way to do it. You can go here, and so if you go back to the global CSS here, you will find here, you can also do like this. Okay, you can indicate what is the font. This is Onki Okni, and it is under asserts, this folder. Click and go back here, right? So you can just reload in case you want to check. So you can load the font, you can also use the font here. So you can download any font you want. Accordingly, you need to specify and you can use them, right? Right now we are just using this font here. So once you have done this, the next one we are going to do, let's say I want to have a logo. And the logo, I want to use SVG format, scalable vector graphics. Why do I need SVG? Because SVG, it will be easily scalable to the size I need, it will not be pixelated, it will look nice, correct? So to do this, I'm going to download an SVG file, which is actually here. This is the file I'm going to download from this folder. I just downloaded this file, okay? So right now, I have this file stored here. This is the SVG file. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go into SRC, I'm going to go into asserts. Let me create a folder here, call it as IMG folder, okay. You can also put it in the same folder under asserts, no problem. You can also place it in the IMG folder. So I've created a folder IMG, I've copied the SVG file. Let's just open up the SVG file in a Notepad++ just to see what is it. So if you look at it carefully, it is basically an XML file. It's an XML file. It has an ID. It has a namespace, which is XML namespace, right? It has view boxes. It shows you what is the drawing area where it has to be displayed. And it has many things here. There is a text, right? G is like group, and it indicates each one of them. And then you have G for sun. So if you look at the logo here, so it has the text, you have the sun here. So this is our sun's picture here, right? We are not going to work on this, but we just want to understand how the file looks like. Now that we have copied that file into the folder, okay, we have just copied it into the folder, in the asserts folder. We want to use this file in our app. So the question is, how am I going to use this? How am I going to benefit from here? So to do that, I have to go to the app folder. So if I show you from the book code, if I go to step number, we are at step number 7. If I go into SRC, app folder, you have something called components, right? So this component folder is not present in my files here. It's not there. So what I have to do is, I need to copy the components folder. I'm going to copy it from my chapter 6 codes, which you have. Just copying and pasting it here. This might give you some trouble, no problem, but we are trying to learn from here. What are the mistakes? Just copy pasting is not going to give you any trouble. The app is going to work as it is with no changes right now. So I've just copied the app folder, the components folder inside app. Okay, it has nothing but one single element called about.component, right? So you have the HTML, you have the TS file. These files are there. So now we are going to go in and integrate the SVG file. What to integrate, where to integrate. You just have to go into the about.component.html file. Open this one. Okay, similarly, open the book code. Go in here, about. So if you go into this one, let's open in the second tab here. So this is the file. So simply what are we trying to do here? We are just trying to use the logo, which is now present inside assets.image folder, assets/image folder. So let's copy this. Okay, let's paste it here, right? So it is just a div class, ion text, ion padding, and it says assets, style is, it is a margin, bottom, and these are things are given. Going back here, right, there's nothing, okay, because there is no element for your logo for about. There is no about here. Once there is no about, you will not see anything here, okay. So how to bring that page for us? How to bring it, right? Right now to bring it, this is only modified in the about.component.html. Let's open from the book, go to the book page, open up the app.component.html page, app.component. Okay, this is the app.component, and let's open our own file, which is the one we are working on. It is under app folder, app.component. This is app.component. So here you have a separate element for about, which is not here. So after toggle menu, I'm just going to add in this part here, right? Save it. Going back to our browser, you will see there are a lot of errors now, right? So property about does not exist. So what is the problem here? If you look at it, here it is calling a method called about, which was not defined here. Normally methods are defined in the TS file. So let's go back here to the book code and open app.component.ts. Okay, this is the component.ts. Open our own code app.component.ts. So I've just opened it here, right? So if you go down, you will find there is a method called about. This is a method. This method does not exist here. So let's try to put in here. Save it, right? Once I'm here, gives me some other error, right? Property popover control does not exist. Now the error is inside app.component.ts, the one I just modified. Line number 41, this is not there. So what is this? So if you go in and if you click this, you will see this is defined in the constructor, and this controller is imported here. So you need to do these things. You just need to import, which is actually not here. So just import it first. So once you import, the error doesn't go, still the same error is there, and you need to go to the constructor and add it in the constructor or inject it into your constructor. Currently our constructor is empty, so I'm just going to inject it here. Okay, save it. So now you say that you can see cannot find about component, line number 44, right? Line number 44, this is not there. Going back to your code again here, this is the one. So when I click on about component, this has been defined here, right? Just copy it, import it here, right? Save it. So now that is gone, but it brings up with some other error. It says that ion img from about.component.html, you have this called ion img. It is not a known element. Okay, so you might get errors like this. So let's try to correct this error. So basically the error is coming from about.component.html. So let's see about.component.html. Here I have the ion/img. If I go back to the book code about.component, I have this, but no errors there basically. So when you have these kind of errors, what you have to do is you go and check, go into the components, go into about.component.ts. Look at the TS file. Okay, so this is the TS file from the book, right? Let's try to open our own TS file. So this is the TS file. I don't see any difference, right? There is no difference between them. So there is no problem with the about, but it's giving you this error. So how to sort it out? The last thing we did, our changes were on this file called app.component.ts. Okay, this is where we were working on, and it has given you such an error. So let's say I'm going to copy this guy, Ionic module, and move in and open up the same file, right? And I'm going to add it here. In the about component, I'm going to say Ionic module. So once you have Ionic module, you need to import it under the component. So I'm going to import it here. So if I remove this, because I just need only one of them, Ionic module, right? I save this. Right now when I do this, you say it is missing, right? It gives me it is missing, import is not a valid, it needs to be, it says that it is a standalone. So I have to go to my app here, app about.component.ts, and include this guy here. Standalone is true. Then only I can do the import. Otherwise, I am not allowed to. So I have done the import, but then it still says import must be an array of components. So it should be a list. So let's say an array, correct? So just put brackets here. Okay, just save it now. Right? Right now the error is gone. The about is here. So click on the about, you can get this about here. So the problem with the about is solved. Basically, I worked on about.component.ts. I have included Ionic. I have also imported Ionic and I have added standalone true, and that's it. I have this problem solved. So you see, this is the SVG file we have added and it's coming up here. No problems. So right now we have done with what is called including an SVG file. The next step we are going to work on is about animations. Okay, let's say we are going to work on some animations right now, right? How to work on some of these animations. So to work on these animations, right, you need to use some options like this. You need to have Ionic version 5 or a later version. So when you want to do animation, you can use JavaScript based libraries to do your animation, but the problem is these animations consume a lot of CPU time. And if you want to reduce the CPU time, then you can use what is called Ionic animations, which basically use web animations API. Okay, so but then you also have to make sure web animation API is not supported by all the browsers, right? So you need to be careful, right? In case if web animations API is not supported, then you need to use the CSS based animations. Okay, these are necessary. So let's work on some animation now, right? So we're going to go in and do some animations right now. We are going to start with a details page. What is a details page? You click on this, right? Just reload them, right? Click again. So this is called as a details page. In this details page, we are going to have like the options to be appearing, disappearing, like this. So let's move in, go to our app pages, details page. Okay, let's open up the detail. Let me close all the other files here. Close. Right. So I am in need of details.page.html. Okay, I'm just going to open this file. I also need details.page.ts. So I've opened these two files here. Okay, so let's check it with the book code. Right. Let's close all the files here. Right. Now we are here. Remember, we are in step number 8. Okay, source, app, pages, details. Open up the HTML and the TS file. Okay, here you have. So in the case of HTML file, what are we going to do? We have what is called Ion Fab. If you go down here, okay, if this is the HTML file here, you will find Ion Fab, right? So here you want to call this method here. If you click on it, you want to do something, right? Basically, it talks about this guy, right? So if I go in here, I'm going to add this and save this. Now automatically I will get an error because this method is not defined. I just added in the HTML file, but I did not define it. Okay. So I need to define it. Number two, this is not enough in the HTML, so we need to do one single extra thing here. You can go in to the footer and we add in here an ID called option button. But this will not solve your problem of the method, right? So now we have done these two changes in the HTML file. Let's move into our TS file. This is the TS file, right? Details.page.ts. If you scroll down to the book code, you will find this code called animate option button. This is a function. Okay. Make sure you choose the actual function. You don't choose the extra brackets around. So I'm just going to choose only here. Going back here, I'm going to add it inside my class. Okay. It's here. Right, just before the last button here. Last brackets, curly brackets. So once I have done, it gives me some other error. It says animate control does not exist. So what is animate control? Okay, because the error comes from this guy, right? And animate control should be in your constructor. And also it has to be imported like before. So let me go back to our code. It is not in our constructor. It is also not included. It's not in our constructor here. It's also not here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add, first of all, import it. Okay, I'm going to import it here. Remember, it also comes from the Ionic Angular. That's why I'm just going to add it here. Otherwise, I can import a separate line for animation controller. Once I've done, save this. It will not change anything because I've just imported. I have not injected into the constructor. So let's bring it into my constructor here. Okay, so this is your step 8.8, correct? I'm working on 8.8, chapter 8, step 8. Once you have done this, you get some other errors here. So it says, let's try to go one by one. Let's say there's an error called fade output option button. So this is in line number 169. Okay, this does not exist. So if I go down line 169, you have this. This is not defined anywhere. But if I go into the same page to the book code, click on this, right? This is the one, same one. If I go up, you will see this has been defined here. So you need to define the variable if you want to use it, correct? Because it says this dot something means it is from this element here or this class here. So go in, don't put it inside the constructor, outside the constructor. So this is for your step number 8.8. I'm just putting comments just for benefits. Once that is gone, we still have one more error. It says in line number 164. So go to our details page, line 164. Okay, the error is here. It says here argument type HTML element or null is not assignable to the element. So it's basically in this line, which is this line here, you have this error. If you go back to the book code, right, let's go to the book code, you see it is exactly the same, but according to the book, there should be no error. How to solve this? So to solve this, it's a very simple approach. You can go here and add an exclamatory. Once I'm saving this, that error is gone, right? Sometimes if you get like this, just reload it. Okay. So what is happening here? By adding this exclamation here, this will make sure the element is never a null value. Okay. The error was due to because if this is null, you cannot assign it. That was a problem. So let's go in, let's click on this. You see, it was doing some kind of rotations here, right? And you see the options is gone now, right? Check. There are some connections here. So this is what is the animation we are trying to do. A simple animation at the level of a button. So what you did is this. We have created an animation control, and it is based on add element for a duration of so many milliseconds. And we start from 1 to 0 opacity or from 0 to 1, correct? So this is what we are doing. And you can say like when you want to call, if the button is there, if it is true, if this option is true, this is a Boolean variable. It was defined some time ago here. See, initially it is true. Then it will play it. It will do the job. And if it is not true, it will play the fade in. It will play this guy. If it is true, it will play this guy, right? So simply it goes from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. The opacity just changes. That's all. So once you have done this, let's do one thing. Let's go to this about app. Why not change this guy? Okay, let's make this sun rotate, for example. Let's do some animation in the SVG file. So how to do this? Let's go into our code, go to the app, src folder, asserts, img, you have the SVG file. So let's go here. Let me close all these files here. Right. So I'm just going to drop in this SVG file, Bob Tools SVG file. Similarly, let's open the book code. Okay, this is a book code here. App, src, just go to the src, asserts, img, and you're going to bring in this code here. You can close the other two, right? So if you scroll down between them, there's a small difference here. Under sun, ID sun, they have added an animation. I'm just going to add the same animation here. So basically it says animation, animate, transform, rotate, and then it gives you something. So it goes from 0 degree to 360 degrees, right? And this is the location. Okay, so the location does not change. Wherever the sun is at that same spot, but it just rotates. And the duration of the rotation takes around 6 seconds, right? And it is indefinite, so it will keep on rotating, right? Let's go back, click on the about, right? And nothing happens right now. So if I go back here, I've done this. So let's save this file. Let's reload, click this. See, the sun is rotating now. So this is the idea about animation within SVG file. We have seen how to do animation in the files like text. We have seen animations on the SVG file. Okay, let's continue on, right? Let's keep going, right? The next step we are going to work on right now is called dynamic theming. Let's say users might not like the fonts you use, the style you use. You want to give them some choices for them. If you want to provide them with 2 choices, and based on the choices you are given, the users can change the style of their app. It will be nice for them, right? I'm going into the book code, src, going to the themes, and I'm going to copy these 2 SCSS files. So I'm going to go here, src, themes, I'm going to put these 2 files. Simple. Let me just open one of the files or both the files to show you what is it all about. This we have studied. You are creating a style called summer style, and you have the background, you have the color, you have the icon, you have the button. Similarly, you have something else here. Even though they look similar, there are some extra differences between them, right? So we can have different styles. Basic idea is to create the style file. So you have created the SCSS file, which is the CSS file, and you have 2 things. One is called Azure, one is called Summer, right? And then you could see they have different colors are being changed here. You see, there's a different color here. But here it uses the original color, which is actually defined before. So if you go in, open this, right? This is the actual color, and the color has been changed here. So you could change the colors, you can do anything you want in here. So we have just created 2 themes, okay? Once you have done, you have created 2 styles, you need to import these styles in the global.scss file. So how to import them? Okay, let's go to the book code. Let's see how it is being done. So we could do the same in our own code as well. Simply, it is these 2 lines. So I'm going to include them. Okay, I have imported these 2, but that doesn't change anything. Why? Because we need to provide users the options to change things, which we have not provided yet. So to do this, we are going to go into what is called app.component.html. So this is the file, app.component.html. Let's open up the book code as well. Here is the one. So let's open this one, app.component.html. So in here, we are going to say in the Ion app, you're going to say class settings dot style, which is not here. So just add them, save it, right? Now you get some errors. Settings does not exist. Okay, it is not there. So what is going on? So again, as usual, right? Let's compare our app.component.ts file. This is the ts file from us. Let's open up the ts file from the book. Right, here it is. So if you go in here, we don't have anything about settings. Okay, here there is what is called as settings. We need to use these settings around. So let's say I'm going to use this, define these settings. Okay, just define them, but nothing happens. The error is gone, but nothing really happens. So what I should do, if I go into add, I have done this here. There is one thing extra I need to do in the HTML file as well. Okay, if you go into the HTML file, you see they have this option here, which is for settings. Okay, this footer, if you look at the footer, there is no footer here. Okay, you have until here the content, which is this one, and here they have this footer here. So let's copy the whole footer. So in the footer, you are creating certain options here, right? Okay, so if you go in, it might give you a lot of errors. So it says price does not exist, this is not exist, so hits does not exist, some of these does not exist. So let's go back, because here you said price, which is not there. So go back to your component.ts file, open the ts file here, and from here you need to copy some of them. So here is the price and hits, just enable them. Again, it give you some more error, cannot bind what is called ion range. Ion range is not there. Okay, so if you get such errors, right, you have to do a few things right now. So it says that cannot bind ng model. Okay, ng model is not there, and then it says filter by type property does not exist. Okay, ng model update setting property does not exist. So you are calling a function called update setting here in the HTML. If you go in, you are actually calling a function called update setting, this one, but that is not there in the ts file. So let's copy it from here. Let's go one by one. So here it is, update settings. Okay, so let me just copy it here, update settings, just copied it. And then still the other errors, this one ng model is problem is still there. Okay, and there is a storage is not existing, underscore storage, filter by type does not exist. So let's try to add these two things first. Okay, this is the storage, go back, add it here, right? It might give you some other error as well. And then it says, let's see, is there any error on storage? Yeah, storage has no initializer, so let's try to initialize it, right? So just put here new storage, and that should be now clear, right? So that storage error is gone. Property set has to be accessed differently, and then it has filter type by price. Okay, so let's try to do the filter type by price. Okay, this is another method, so let's copy that method, put here. Okay, and that error should go off. Now ng model error is there, and also that is property set comes from something, it must be accessed like this, and then property bt service does not exist. So we need to use a bt service, right? So what is the problem with the bt service? This is the guy, right? So let's go here, bt service. This has to be defined, in the constructor. It also has to be in the imports. So let's go to the imports, import that guy, which is not imported before. It is not in the constructor, so let's go to the constructor and import this, inject it into the constructor, right? Save it. Let's see whether that error goes off. ng model error is still there. There is a set problem, right? The problem with the set is actually this storage we are using, it's defined here. So you should use this storage which is coming from Angular. Let's put it here, right? Let's see what happens. Yeah, the set error is gone, only the ng model, okay? ng model for ion range, ion radio cannot bind this, right? So if you have such a problem with this ng model, basically you need to do some more imports, okay? Let's do some imports to check this error. So I have imported the forms model. I'm going to add it to the imports here, right? Let's add them. Okay, so that error is gone. Now everything is gone. So you see these things are happening now. This part which I need. So now these are the settings which are coming from. Actually, we have not done anything. So now you see if I click, it changes. You see, this is the azure one. This is the summer one. The color is changing. You know, you can change things around. Looks nice if you change them, right? So this is one thing you could do when you add, when you create your own styles. You add them into the settings, you allow the users to change them. Once they change, the appearance of the app changes. Okay, this is something interesting, you could work on them. So once you have done this, so try to understand the errors and try to correct them. We need to go and learn all these errors. This is important here. The last part of this chapter talks about if you have a split pane layout. So what is that all about? So if I go into my code and check my app component.html file, you see it says ion split pane. Why it is ion split pane? Okay, the reason because when I have created this app, I have used the side menu. The side menu, you have a side menu here. So there's a side menu here. Okay, that is why this thing appears for us, right? And then remember this ID, content ID, right, is same as the ID mentioned here. Right? That will make things visible. That will make sure this part is visible all the time. Okay, it will make sure the part is visible. Now let us just click on this guy, and then I'm going to open up the developer tools. So I'm in the developer tools now, right? And I'm just going to do this. See, I can click, there's a menu, I can change this, right? I can work on this and it will be changing whatever I want. I can close that as well. In case if things don't appear, okay, if things don't appear, you could do one extra thing here. You can go into your split plane and you can say when equal to, you can say SM, MD, these are the different breakpoints we have, okay. It's not necessary, but you could change them if you need be, right? So SM basically indicates the minimum width is 576px, MD is 768px, and LG is 992px, XL is 1200px. There's one thing interesting here. See, I've selected the bond, right? Let's go back. I'm having it here. Okay, let's say I've selected the two types. I'm changing this. Nothing changes. Because of the pricing, some of them should not be right. So let's imagine I change the pricing here. The range is from 220 to 400 euro. Go back to regions, come back to tours. You see some of them are disabled already. So the change is happening only when I click regions and come back to tour types or the other way around, vice versa. I don't want this. Okay, this is not part of an UI, but this is something I want to settle it here, right? So if I want to do this, how to do this? This is something that should be done at the level of my service. Okay, so let me close all these codes here, right? So I'm going to work on the service level. So I'm going to go here to my code, go to SRC, app, services, open the bub2 service. Okay, bub2 service. So I have opened it here. Similar, just open the book code. Please note we are going to work on step number 10, the last step of this chapter. So app, services, open up the bub tools one. Okay, I've just opened up the Bob Tools one here. The main difference here, we are adding the filter to the service itself, which was not there initially. Okay, so this is what we are doing, right? So let's go here, right? So this is step 8.10. So I am added it here. So by adding this line here, is it going to do anything? Not yet. Okay, no changes in the UI or on our app. And then what you have to do, you have to provide some kind of filtering based on when you select the options here. So I'm going to do the filtering at the level of the Bob Tools itself. So once you have done this, you see when I save this, I get lots of error. It says here region has an implicit any type, to type as an implicit any type. So we could solve this error. This is basically line number 107, line number 111, bobtools.service.ts. I'm here. So I'm just going to do this. Line 107, 111, both the file, both the lines. Save them. That error is gone. Okay. Just reload them and then you will find it here. So this is done, but that still does not solve my problem. Okay, if I change this, nothing happens, right? It has not solved my problem yet, but I have done the filtering at the tools level. So remember, I have initialized the range. This is from 80 to 400. So you can see this is basically 80 to 400, right? 80 to 400, and then here by changing, I am selecting the changes and I am working on the regions file and the two types file. So now I'm going to work on two other files under pages. We are going to work on two files right now, right? One is called regions. Let's go into regions and open up regions.the TS file and the HTML file. Okay, and plus you're going to change in the tool types, right? So just choose the tool types, these two files. Okay, let's open the book code here, app, pages, and we are in need of those four files. Go to the regions, and these are the two region files, and we also need the two types files. Okay, I have them now. So let's move in to what is called region.ts. Okay, let's work on the TS file. Simply what you have to do, because here the regions has been collecting the data, right? You are collecting the data for the regions internally and doing it. You are doing it here. You are reading from the BT service. You are checking for the filtering is here. As the filtering is already added to the BT service, you can just simply comment this. Right click, select them, block comment, save this. Okay. So now if I go in, I just reload this guy, right? I did it in the region, right? So let's go to the region. Nothing happens. It's an empty page now. Okay. So what happened? Because the data was coming from here, I have commented here, nothing happens. So the data, this region is coming from this dot region. Now I need it from the BT service directly, Bob Tools service. So when I do this and save it, now things appear. Now if I'm going to go here and change, right? You see, it changes automatically, right? So same thing you need to do for the two types as well. Go in, and please make sure you only comment this, right? You don't comment this bracket because this is curly bracket for the method. Save it. Go in here. So instead of using two types, correct? Two types is reading from local. You're going to use from the BT service. Okay, this is actually from your Bob Tools service. Click this, you are done. Going back here, click on two types. Now you can change, things will change, right? You just drag, drop, things will change accordingly, right? And that ends this chapter.